I transmigrated into an NPC in a young wife novel. The male protagonist is brainwashing the female protagonist. This is an imported contraceptive pill. It's good for your skin. The female protagonist whimpers, "Because of you, I can choose to take medicine without any scruples. It's so good to have you." I put on the armband of the chairperson of the Women's Federation and knocked on the door next door. All those who deceive girls into taking medicine are scumbags. I am holding a large bowl of noodles and happily looking for a seat. The noodles with thick gravy, accompanied by a soft-boiled egg, and sprinkled with a handful of chopped green onions and coriander, are extremely delicious for me who am extremely hungry. At this moment, a man and a woman came in arm. The girl took one look at the large bowl in my hand and was like a frightened little rabbit, burrowing into the boy's arms. "Oh my God! Such a big bowl of noodles. Is this for people to eat? Pig feed, right?" After saying that, they both glanced at me at the same time and revealed mocking smiles. I can understand a girl being scared by cockroaches, but I can't quite understand a girl being scared by a bowl of noodles. I found a seat and put down the noodles. They also sat next to me. The boy asked, "Baby, should we have a large bowl or a small bowl?" The girl immediately said coquettishly, "Small bowl. Small bowl. Who can finish so much in a large bowl? 4 pigs? Order a small bowl. We can share it. I can't eat much." The boy stroked the girl's nose. "Does baby eat only this little? So cute, like a little cat." The hand holding the chopsticks tightened. I was just eating noodles. Who did I offend? Only then did I realize that they were the male and female protagonists in this book. They are not satisfied with just being happy themselves. They also love to deliberately step on passersby. The lives of NPCs also matter. Stepping on NPCs is too much. I shouted at the noodle stall owner, "Boss, pack a small bowl of noodles. I will go and feed stray dogs later. The small bowl is enough. 2 little thin dogs can share one bowl just fine. A dog's stomach can't hold much. Buying a large bowl would make them burst. Who doesn't know how to insult people?" After saying that, I felt my mammary glands unclogged. The expressions on the faces of the male and female protagonists were a colorful mix. It was extremely beautiful. When the boss handed me the noodles, he frowned, lowered his head, took a deep breath, and then raised his head, forming wrinkles on his forehead. "One is for pigs. One is for dogs. A world where only I am hurt is achieved. You cannot love. But please don't hurt. All of you. Get out. Get out gracefully. If I am guilty, let the law punish me. Why should I be trampled by young wife literature?" I found the original owner's rental house based on my memory and slept for a night. The next day, the clattering sounds woke me up. I stood at the door of the room with messy hair and pajamas. I saw that the room next door was moving. I took a look at the people moving things. The female protagonist was carrying several bowls and plates. Her little face was flushed as she followed behind the male protagonist. "Husband, I'm tired. These bowls are really so heavy. Look, my little hands are all red." The male protagonist turned around and rubbed her wrist. "Baby, I'll just recharge you and it'll be fine. Don't forget, I am your charger." The female protagonist blushed and threw herself into his arms. "So embarrassing. Husband, someone is watching. You still know that someone is watching." The male protagonist glanced at me. "I just want the whole world to know how much I spoil you. Is the domineering president not popular anymore? Now is the domineering and confident ordinary man popular?" I turned around expressionlessly and closed the door. Then, I started frantically making calls to find a house. But who would have thought that there was simply no house for rent at all? Yes, there is not a single vacant room for rent in the entire city. It's extremely absurd. The plot has locked me firmly by the side of the male and female protagonists. Is this the inescapable fate of an NPC? 3 at night. When I went out of my room to use the toilet, I almost tripped over a row of wires on the ground and ate shit. The wires extended all the way to the next room, leaving only a crack in the door. In the middle of winter, the female protagonist was wearing only a single piece of clothing and standing outside the room, shivering from the cold. So soon you two had a fight? The female protagonist took a look at me and smiled charmingly like silk. Hello, sister. I should have greeted you when I moved in this morning. I am your neighbor Tina next door. What's your name? Sister? I nodded calmly. Who doesn't know your famous name as the female protagonist? I am Luna. A very ordinary name like a passerby. Sister's name is very unadorned. Just like you. She covered her mouth and laughed in a very annoying way. Okay. I shouldn't have been so cheap and talked to the female protagonist. At this moment, the door opened. A room full of light spilled out. In that moment, I almost thought I saw Jesus. The male protagonist had set up a room full of light bulbs and candles, blinding my dog eyes. He was wearing a suit that didn't seem to fit very well. The leather shoes also didn't seem to fit. They were all rented. He spread his arms and smiled brightly. Baby, congratulations on our first stay in our little love nest. You are a uniform control. Do you like this uniform of mine? Tina suddenly covered her mouth and started crying softly. No, how embarrassing this is. Will you be my wife? The male protagonist asked. Tina sobbed once. You are too nervous. Your voice is so low. I didn't hear you. The male protagonist asked loudly again. Tina, will you be my wife? Tina directly threw herself into the male protagonist's arms. Okay. She stepped on the male protagonist's leather shoes, stood on tiptoe, and kissed the male protagonist passionately. The candlelight swayed and the light bulbs flickered. The male and female protagonists rolled onto the bed affectionately, leaving me, an NPC with polluted eyes and a traumatized heart. At least close the door. I am the chairperson of the Women's Federation in the street. It is said that the original owner repeatedly caused trouble and became a stepping stone for the relationship between the male and female protagonists to heat up. But I won't be so stupid. At night, I dragged my tired body back to the rental house. The male and female protagonists were hugging each other and sitting in the living room watching TV. The sound was a bit loud, so I turned on the Bluetooth speaker in my room. Unexpectedly, Tina's eyes lit up. She pulled the male protagonist's sleeve with her little hand and cockathiously said, Husband, buy me a Bluetooth speaker like Sister Hua's. I really want it. Whimper. So your lives can't go on without me, right? I deliberately took out the speaker and put it on the coffee table. Come on. Take a picture and search for it. The male protagonist took a picture. As soon as he searched for the price, it was 1,000 yuan. His expression instantly became extremely serious. He sat up straight and asked, Baby, what do you want this speaker for? In what occasions will you use it? What is its usage frequency? Do you understand its functions and shortcomings? Tina was confused by the questions. Husband, I just want a speaker. Why would I think so much? The male protagonist started analyzing the cost performance of this Bluetooth speaker and also opened the review article. I shook my head and walked into the bathroom to take a shower. When I came out of the shower, they were still discussing the speaker. So, to sum up, this speaker is simply not. Tina pouted a grieved lie and said, You are right. She sulked and turned her face away. The male protagonist's big hand scratched her hair. She let out a soft moan. Her face was full of enjoyment. She couldn't help but rub her head on the male protagonist's palm. Is Tina a good little baby? Is she a good little baby? Scratching her scalp, Tina fell limply into the male protagonist's arms. Okay. I won't buy it. I won't buy it. While I took away my speaker. At the same time, I said loudly, A cunning poor man. The male protagonist's hand froze. Tina was also petrified. I pretended to make a phone call and walked towards my room. You said you are a rational person who can analyze and live frugally. All right. Stop lying. You are simply poor and stingy. You can't afford to buy things but still talk a lot of nonsense. You are not good at making money. But you are good at fooling women. When I closed the door, I didn't forget to point at the phone and say to the male and female protagonists, "Don't take it personally. I'm on the phone." The next day, Tina suddenly came to the women's center to find me. When she saw me, a line of clear tears flowed down her face. The other people in the unit exclaimed like they had lost their minds. "She is so delicate. I really want to protect her." Fellow NPCs. That's enough. What problem does Sister Hua need to solve? Tina was on the verge of tears. Sister Hua. I am so sad and distressed now. I had a quarrel with my man. Tina didn't go to work. She usually played games at home when she was bored. Today, she spent 120 yuan of the man's money to recharge the game. After the male protagonist found out, he got angry at her. I took a look at her phone. Inside, the male protagonist sent her 10 consecutive 50-second voice messages. Every sentence was an output. Okay. You are very rich. Right? You just spent 120 yuan so casually. Look at it yourself. Is this reasonable? I work hard at the company to support you. And you just play games at home and spend money crazily. Right? No. I am so angry. What kind of woman would spend 120 yuan to recharge a game? So prodigal. I have already kept the evidence of your extravagance. Wait until I come back and I won't let you off. The wrath of more than 100 yuan. So terrifying. I really couldn't listen anymore and returned the phone to Tina. Sister Hua. Did I really make a huge mistake? He is so fierce, she said while wiping her tears. The so-called young wife literature, on the surface, seems sweet and pampering. But in fact, it demeans women. The author portrays the female protagonist as a delicate and tender young wife who is dependent on men and puts men first in everything. This not only satisfies men's fantasies but also PUA women and forcefully brainwashes them, making many female readers think that the real relationship between men and women is like this. As the female protagonist, Tina is even more immersed in this image of a young wife, and cannot extricate herself. I took out my phone and transferred 120 yuan to Tina. You transfer it to Noah, and say it's to pay him back. Reply to him, is 120 yuan for playing games a lot? Tina hesitated and said, but Sister Hua, I don't have money to pay you back. I silently rolled my eyes in my heart. Then why don't you go to work? Tina was stunned for a moment. Then she recalled something and said with a face full of sweetness, because he said that as a girl. I can turn much money at work. It's better to go home and be well taken care of by him and marry him and have a baby. I nodded and said, right. This is it. You were wrong from here. Tina looked at me very confused. Since ancient times, men have colluded to turn women into men's accessories. The first step is to deprive women of their economic rights. Without money, women can only rely on men to live. I will support you. It's not some kind of vow. It's a poison pill wrapped in sugar. But if I directly said this, Tina would definitely not understand. So I said, recently, our women's center is recruiting. There is just a shortage of a secretary. It's not a formal position. The salary is only 2,000 yuan a month. But these 2,000 yuan are enough for you to play games gloriously without asking for money through Noah's hands. What do you think? Tina hesitated for a moment. I have to go back and discuss it with him. I fanned the flames for her. What's there to discuss? Men are all dogs. Earn your own money and play games and make him shut up. This sentence hit her right in the heart. She took the contract and pen I handed over and signed her name quickly. At night, when I was watching a drama, Noah knocked on my door with a black face. As soon as I opened the door, he asked bluntly, it was you who encouraged Tina to go to work at your so-called Women's Federation, right? Tina shrank behind him, quiet as a quail. I nodded kindly and said, yes. Don't look at this position as small. But it's a hot commodity. There are several sisters waiting to apply later. If you do well, You can get a formal position and your salary will also increase. I opened a back door for Tina and let her start working directly. Don't thank me too much. Big sister is warm-hearted. It's right for us neighbors to help each other. As the saying goes, it's hard to hit a smiling person. Noah was choked up. His tone softened a lot and said, "Thank you, Sister Hua. But hey, I already said no need to thank me. Just tell me directly if you have any difficulties next time. Keep the noise down at night. I still have to watch dramas." Hearing the last sentence, Tina smiled shyly behind him. I patted Noah on the shoulder and pushed him back. He hit a soft spot and couldn't get angry. He could only give up. Tina worked at the Women's Federation for a month. When she got her first salary, she was very happy and paid me back the 120 yuan. I said to her, "Isn't it very happy to earn your own money and spend it yourself?" She nodded. After staying at home for a while, I was always on edge when recharging games. I had to ask men for money for everything I bought. Now that I'm working again, I feel extremely happy to earn money. I smiled. A woman who earns her own living is the most beautiful. You have to experience everything yourself to know how to cherish it. After a few days, the unit went out to publicize work. We set up a temporary booth and publicized the benefits of getting the HPV vaccine and the 2 cancer screening on the street. Because the preparations in the early stage were good, we distributed flyers and gave away gifts. Many female friends came to listen to our science popularization and made appointments for screening. Almost at noon, Noah came. Tina was still holding a flyer in her hand. She wiped the sweat on her forehead and said cocathously to Noah, "Husband, do you think I should get a vaccine?" Noah glanced contemptuously at the flyer and tapped Tina on the forehead and said, "Why get it? People who are chaste don't need this." This sentence made the girls nearby look sideways. But Noah seemed not to notice at all and continued, "Vaccines are better to be given less. Who knows if there will be any problems? Only people who mess around will get HPV. You only have me as your partner. So there's no need to get this kind of thing." Tina immediately became starry-eyed and looked at Noah adoringly and said, "Husband is so smart." The male and female protagonists' show of stepping on others and showing affection started again. One of the girls couldn't stand it anymore and immediately said loudly, "Who are you? Slandering all women who get vaccines." "That's right. Why are you saying this?" Noah had a defiant look. Did it hit a nerve? "So anxious." The girl sneered and said, "But you really look like someone who is chaste." On the contrary. Except for her, there won't be any women who would look at a weakling like you. As soon as Tina saw that her husband was being bullied, she immediately chimed in, "We don't get vaccines ourselves. What's it to you? Think about it. Where does the HPV virus come from? Girls like me who love themselves and have only one boyfriend at a time are very difficult to be infected with the HPV virus." Noah said, "Good win, and don't need to know these things. Bad women are on their way to get injections." This sentence shocked everyone. The girls who were still hesitating whether to get the injection threw away the flyers and left one after another. I walked over quickly with a loud voice and said, TSK. Do you think what you said without common sense is tenable? I can't believe this is something said by an educated young person." Passers-by were attracted by my loud voice and slowed down to watch the excitement. The HPV vaccine is used to protect women. It's not used to distinguish who is chaste. In 2020, there were 604.0 new cases of cervical cancer worldwide and 342.0 deaths. The HPV vaccine can prevent the spread of the virus and effectively inhibit the occurrence of cervical cancer. Cervical cancer is the cancer that humans are most likely to end. The appearance of the cervical cancer vaccine is full light of humanity. But in your mouths, it is labeled with a stigma. People who say such things are simply stupid and bad. Noah smiled with a sister Hua. "Tell me, where does the HPV virus come from? Isn't it transmitted by messing around?" After having initial sexual intercourse, more than 50 of women will have HPV infection. of women will be infected with HPV at least once in their lifetime. According to what you said. Are all women infected with HPV not chaste? Your broad generalization is too much. And don't forget, sexual transmission is only the most important transmission route. But not the only one. Noah said casually, all right. All right. You're right. Anyway, our baby is impossible to get it. I turned to Tina and said, you really can't get it. Remember the 2 cancer screening organized by the unit half a month ago? Just now someone over there called me and told you to go to the hospital for a re-examination quickly. Tina's face immediately became extremely pale. What's wrong with my examination results? I lowered my voice and said, it's not convenient to say here. You can check it on your phone by yourself and you'll know. Tina hurriedly opened her phone. As soon as she checked the examination result, she burst into tears on the spot. Noah panicked. He quickly took the phone and saw that it clearly said HPV positive. This slap in the face came too quickly. How is it possible? How could baby be infected? I said unhurriedly beside her, the father of the HPV vaccine. Hausen once said that although men are not the main group of people suffering from cervical cancer, they are the main transmitters of HPV. Noah looked at me angrily and shouted, it must be you. You did this. I immediately put on a shocked expression. The phone is your girlfriend's. The system is official. You two got the virus. What does it have to do with me? I looked around. Is it appropriate for you to say this on the street? More and more onlookers gathered. Everyone whispered and pointed. Noah grabbed Tina's arm in embarrassment. Let's go home and talk. Tina couldn't care about these anymore. She shook off his hand hard and hid behind me. Crying. She shouted at Noah, did you go out and mess around behind my back? Noah was extremely angry. How is it possible? I said in a sarcastic tone, where does the HPV virus come from? Isn't it transmitted by messing around? This is exactly what you just said. Tina cursed. Shameless dog man. More and more people were watching. The girls who were just speechless by the rebuttal felt extremely relieved and applauded one after another. Noah stomped his feet in anxiety. My big sister. Can you make a fuss at home? Tina was determined. You explain clearly here. Let me die clearly. Noah panicked and hurriedly said, didn't Sister Hua just say that sexual transmission is not the only transmission route? Sister Hua. You said that. Right? I said unhurriedly. But the common sense I just said was all denied by you one by one. Besides, I don't know about your private life. So I won't comment. I knew you went out and messed around behind my back. After hearing this, Tina cried even louder. No, I didn't. Didn't Sister Hua just give us a science popularization? Please be scientific. I almost laughed out loud. I patted Tina on the back and said, HPV infection doesn't mean you will definitely get cancer. Tomorrow, Sister will accompany you to the hospital for an examination. Don't be afraid. This ended. Tina just had HPV infection. Having HPV infection doesn't necessarily lead to cancer. She went to the hospital for treatment for a while and regained her health. Noah didn't know what sweet words he said to her. The two made up again. Tina moved back to my next door again. Tina gave me a box of biscuits as a gift. Sister Hua. Thank you for taking care of me. Are you back again? Not angry anymore? My husband checked a lot of information and gave me a science popularization. What Sister Hua said is all right. HPV infection cannot be linked to a moral private life. Husband is innocent. Sometimes people never know the pain until the whip hits them. I reminded her considerately. Men are carriers and also need to go for an examination. If there is a disease, treat it. Tina patted her chest. Sister, don't worry. I have a bottom line. If he doesn't get treated, I won't have sex with him. As soon as she finished saying this, she forgot it immediately. From the wall with poor sound insulation, their voices came. Don't listen to that old woman Luna. She has no man and she is jealous of you. Baby. But I'm still worried. Why don't we use a condom? You have been infected with this virus. Now you have antibodies in your body. It's almost the same effect as getting vaccinated. Don't be afraid. You won't be infected again. Besides, I usually buy you imported contraceptive pills. Isn't this more comfortable than using a condom? You are allergic. Those condoms will make you allergic. Look at your face and this skin. The reason why it can become so smooth is completely because of taking this contraceptive pill. Other girls can only buy medicine with their own money, and can only buy domestic medicine. But you are bought by a man and it's imported medicine. How expensive. Those girls can't afford medicine, and can only take it intermittently. How easy it is to get thrombosis. But with me, I let you take it continuously without interruption. See how much I love you. And you are still being stubborn with me here. Tina whimpered. Those women are really so pitiful. They meet scumbags and still have to buy medicine with their own money. They are all so cheap. They don't cherish their bodies and look for men in the trash. Because of you, I can choose to take medicine without any scruples. It's so good to have you. Kiss. Husband. Immediately. Ambiguous sounds came from next door. I couldn't listen anymore and turned on the Bluetooth speaker. The sound inside was extremely penetrating. Those who want to have sex but don't use condoms and deceive girls into taking medicine are all scumbags. The sound was played in a loop with rap sound effects. The people next door couldn't bear it anymore and came to knock on my door. Noah was standing outside the door in his underpants with an angry face and said, "Luna, what do you mean by this? I'm recording a promotional video. Is the sound too loud and disturbing you?" Noah had an unfriendly expression and said, "I think you are deliberately targeting me." I smiled and put on the air of the chairperson of the Women's Federation. "Tell me, how am I targeting you? Are you taking it so personally so quickly? Could it be?" I looked around him with my eyes and finally locked on Tina's face. "Who just said that you won't have sex until the man is cured?" Tina was to answer. Noah stood in front of her. "What does our matter have to do with you?" I held my chest high and said righteously, "I am the chairperson of the Women's Federation. Everything about all women in the world has something to do with me." Noah's eyes were like poisoned. "It has nothing to do with you. Short-acting contraceptive pills are benefits for women. For the first time, women hold the right to get pregnant in their own hands. I choose to give her medicine because I respect her. I care more about Tina's body than anyone else. Besides, did she take medicine and spend your money? It's not your turn as a passerby to point fingers at me." I sneered. "First, condoms can't completely prevent HPV infection. You are carrying the virus and still want to have sex without a condom. Are you telling me here that you cherish Tina's body? Second, what you said about condoms causing allergies is to the extent that it can cause major condom manufacturers to refute rumors. You buy inferior condoms yourself. And you still say it's for Tina's body? Third, any drug has side effects. And so does short-acting contraceptive pills. As a hormone therapy, short-acting contraceptive pills actually treat women's fertility. That is, women's ovulation function, as a disease. Long-term medication has many unavoidable negative impacts on women's bodies." I shifted my gaze to Tina and said earnestly, "Girls can choose any contraceptive method that makes her feel comfortable, including taking medicine. But the premise is that she chooses it herself. Not being brainwashed by others and being told that taking medicine is good for the skin." To sum up, I think a responsible man will not let women bear risks that they shouldn't bear because of his own selfish desires. And still make women be grateful. Tina looked at me thoughtfully. A well-organized speech left Noah speechless. He was stunned for a good while before squeezing out a few words through his teeth. "Feminist." He pulled Tina back to the next room. I had a very quiet night. The next day, Tina came to the women's center with dark circles under her eyes. She said she wanted to resign. "Well, sister, I think I'm not very suitable for this job." I looked at her with loving eyes. "Did Noah force you to resign?" Tina stammered. "Sister Fua. Anyway, I just don't want to do it anymore. I want to leave today." My happiness is more important. I can't affect my normal relationship with my husband for the sake of making money. I hope you understand. I showed a regretful expression. That's really a pity. Tomorrow is the weekend. The unit will organize a 2-day and 1-night trip. Family members can also come. Don't you want to go on a trip before leaving? Tina thought about it and immediately sent a message to Noah. He also thought that it was a bargain not to take if it was free. So he agreed to go on the trip together. On the weekend, a group of women from the unit, along with their families, got on the bus heading to the mountain hot spring. Noah is usually stingy and has never taken Tina on a trip. This is their first trip. Tina leaned sweetly on Noah's shoulder and smiled extremely happily. This is our first trip together. Let's take a photo to commemorate it. She picked up her phone and took a selfie. In the original novel, Tina wanted to travel with Noah. But Noah didn't want to spend money. So he coaxed Tina and said she was his little bitch. When World Dog Day comes, I will take you on a trip again. Be good. He blocked Tina's mouth with a kiss. Below, there were a series of book reviews from readers. So sweet. So sweet. At that time, I felt that my 3 views were shattered. It is this kind of young wife literature that distorts women's thinking, creates an extremely unequal relationship between men and women, causes a sick love value in society, lowers girls' mate selection standards, and also drives up the price of pigs. Having experienced it personally, I find it even more eye-catching. An old aunt next to her was outspoken. Tina, haven't you been with him for several years? Is this the first time you go on a trip? Noah touched Tina's head without changing his expression, or losing his composure and said, Our Tina is weak. I am afraid she will fall if I hold her in my hand and melt if I put her in my mouth. I am reluctant to take her out to be exposed to the wind and sun. Tina shyly fell into his arms. The old aunt touched the goosensd on her arm and rolled her eyes. Could it be that this hot spring will melt your girlfriend? A stingy person can make any excuse so disgusting. When they arrived at the hot spring hotel in the mountains, everyone divided the rooms. After taking their room cards, they went to play. But Tina and Noah were different. This was a rare trip for them. Noah said it was like their honeymoon trip. The two were being affectionate in the room. I stood outside and looked at my watch. 1:23. The wooden two-story building suddenly shook violently. Panicked screams came from their room. Fortunately, I remembered the description in the book. There would be a small earthquake at this time. I saw Noah rush out of the room without even having time to put on his pants. With the speed of an arrow leaving the bow, he rushed from the second floor to the first floor, and then ran to the flat ground outside. After a few minutes, Tina ran out of the second floor room in disheveled clothes. She sprained her foot because of panic while going downstairs. Several middle-aged and elderly women with their spouses happened to pass by, and all looked at Noah attentively. One of the women couldn't help blurting out, So thin. Noah covered his key parts in shame and anger. He didn't know whether to leave or stay. I really couldn't stand it anymore and threw him a bath towel. Noah picked up the bath towel and wrapped it around his lower body. He was so angry that he was shaking. It's you. You tricked me again. Right? I tut deet Weiss. So this is what being physically disabled but mentally strong looks like. I've learned a lesson. Tina also ran over. Just as Noah was about to speak, she angrily raised her hand and slapped Noah, a villain who only cares about running for his own life. After saying that, she threw herself into my arms and cried. I took Tina to my room and made her a cup of tea. Don't worry. The earthquake is not in our place. We are only slightly affected here. Don't be afraid. A string of tears fell from Tina. We were lying on the same bed. As soon as the house shook, he left me and ran away. He ran so fast. I shouted behind him. But he didn't even look back at me. How could he be like this? Is this the stress response of humans when encountering danger? Seeing that she was about to find an excuse for Noah again, I immediately stopped her divergent thinking. No. If it is someone who truly loves you, they will never leave you behind in a dangerous moment. Think carefully. If your parents were there, would they run away without pulling you along? Tina shook her head. No. When I was a child. Once I went on a cruise with my parents. Because I was naughty. I fell into the river. At that time, my father didn't know how to swim. But he still put on a swimming ring and jumped into the river to fish me out. Then she changed the topic. My God. The earthquake didn't wake her up. I am still very considerate and loving. He will bring me a cup of brown sugar water when I have a stomachache during my period. He will suddenly send me a WeChat message when he is working overtime and say, I miss you. When I have a fever, he will bring me hot water. When I say I'm hungry at night, he will buy me something to eat on his way home from work. Look, love is reflected in all kinds of small details. How much he loves me. If bringing a cup of hot water is loving you, then a thermos also loves you very much. If bringing food is loving you, then the delivery guy also loves you. If sending a message is loving you, then netizens love you more than him. These are not love. You just take all the little things men do as grace and be self-brainwashed and moved. True love is not like this. Tina's eyes were confused. But Sister Hua, you don't even have a boyfriend. How would you know what true love is? But I know that I will definitely not leave the person I deeply love in a shaky house and only run away for myself. Only in a critical moment can you see who really cares about you. Tina bit her lower lip as if thinking about something. My room door was knocked loudly. The thin man came again. I was afraid of disturbing the tourists next door. So I opened the door for him. As soon as he came to the room, he knelt down in front of Tina. What's this play again? I remembered. When Noah took Tina's first time. It was also when they just started dating. Noah asked countless times for the two to try. But Tina always refused because of strict family education. Later, Noah knelt down and cried and begged her, saying that Tina's constant refusal was because she didn't love him, making him feel very sad and frustrated. Only then did his scheme succeed. It seems that Noah wants to kneel down again and use moral kidnapping. He knelt on the ground, holding Tina's leg and crying, Tina, baby, I know you were very scared at that time. I also encountered an earthquake for the first time. My mind was blank. By the time I came to my senses, I was already standing outside. I really didn't have consciousness at that time. If I had consciousness, how could I be standing outside naked? He hugged Tina's injured foot, making her gasp in pain. I suddenly said beside them, Yes. Yes, how could it be his fault that he left you and ran away? It must be the foot's fault. The foot ran by itself. Tina was furious. Let go of my leg. Noah burst into tears. Tina, I am your first man. You can't leave me. Tina wavered. She bit her lower lip as if considering his words. Noah continued to cry. There is my mark on your body and my smell remains. How can you leave me? Tina was persuaded. She turned her head with difficulty and said to me, Sister Fua, I'm sorry. He is my first man. He took away my most precious thing. I can't leave him anymore. I almost laughed out loud. When a man uses sex to kidnap a woman, it means that he is really hopeless. Come on. Are you still living in the Qing dynasty? I walked over and poked her forehead with my finger. Your most precious thing is not that layer of membrane but here. It's your mind. Some men, in order to turn women in their own private property, put many labels on women, such as chaste and loyal women, sluts, bitches, etc. They will praise the chastity of some women, insult some women who are not chaste, use sex to kidnap them, and satisfy their own selfish desires. Men with low moral standards often take sex as the ultimate goal in dating. They please women in every way. Take sex as a sign of conquering women and use it to control them. Sex is neither good nor bad. It is just a natural need of the human body. Just like when you are hungry, you need to eat. When you are thirsty, you need to drink. Both men and women can freely enjoy the pleasure of sex with mutual consent. It should not be a shame or a criterion for judging women. If men and women change roles, Will a man feel that he can only be bound to a woman because he gave his first time to a woman? Will he feel that he is not clean if he goes out? Noah couldn't help but stand up and shout, "Enough. Don't talk nonsense here. What good is it for you to destroy my relationship with Tina?" After he shouted, it was as if his brain was suddenly enlightened, and like having an enema. "I know. You like me? You want to break us up so that you can be with me? I tell you, I am not interested in an old woman like you at all." How should I put it? The male protagonist in this text is just so full of confidence. He thinks that all women in the world are rushing to stick to him. I spread out my hands. What are you thinking? A T1 ruler is 12 centimeters long. But do you have that? There are plenty of men on the street. Sister doesn't lack you. After I finished speaking, there was a violent shaking. The second aftershock began. The light bulb popped, and we were plunged into darkness. This time, without surprise, Noah once again left Tina and ran away. The hot spring trip became the breakup trip for the male and female protagonists. After returning to the city, I helped Tina move. She was holding a plush little rabbit and fell into memories. This is a gift he gave me after we established our relationship. He said it was a reward for me leaving the most important thing to him. I was so happy at that time. I felt that I had received praise and held it to sleep every day. I thought she was going to be sentimental again. But in the next second, she directly threw the rabbit into the trash can. I spit. A $10 rabbit is used to brainwash me. Fine. She picked out many things belonging to the two of them, and threw them all into the trash can. In the end, she found that except for a few clothes, there was nothing else to take away. That's good. Money can be earned again and things can be bought again. But if a person goes astray, it's completely over. I asked her, "Are you still resigning?" She took my arm. "I won't resign. I still have to work hard with sister who and strive to get into the formal establishment as soon as possible. There are thousands of love-struck girls like me who need to be saved by our women's federation." Tina rented a single room again, and threw herself into work seriously. Because of Tina's departure, Noah returned the room next door and moved away by himself. But he was still not giving up and kept harassing Tina. Once he went to our unit again to intercept Tina, and tried to get back together. Tina was somewhat wavering until he took out their private photos. Noah shamelessly said, "Tina, you don't want these photos to be spread online, right?" The last glimmer of hope Tina had for him was extinguished by him himself. She took out her phone expressionlessly. "Hello. 110? I want to report a crime." Noah spent the new year in the police station in the end. Tina asked me why Noah was chasing her so persistently. I said to her, women can bring men a sense of social vanity. For example, a penniless pauper. As long as he finds a wife who can serve him, he won't feel that he is good for nothing. And Noah thinks you are easy to control. With his conditions, it's very difficult to find another submissive wife. That's why he doesn't want to let you go. Without the male protagonist filter of the young wife literature, Noah is just an ordinary and confident man who is poor and stingy. Other girls would find him annoying just by looking at him more. Tina was completely relieved. After that, Noah never appeared again. Tina also changed. When encountering a domestic violence man, she would not hesitate to persuade the woman. Domestic violence only happens 0 times or countless times. We firmly advise separation for such things. The child is pitiful? Living in such a domestic violence environment is pitiful. You are a person first and then a mother. You must be brave and live for yourself and leave that domestic violence man. When encountering a pig butchering scam, she would spare no effort to persuade the girl to give up. Is your money covered in shit? Do you have to give it to that person you've never met? To put it harshly, the other party may be a dog that can type. He is good to you? Buys you milk tea? Come on. He cheated the last girl of hundreds of thousands. That's enough to buy milk tea for tens of thousands of girls. Tina had several boyfriends. After each relationship, she would come and review it with me. Finally, she found a man suitable for marriage. The other party loves and respects her. She is no longer a young wife who is dependent on men. She got a formal position and is a capable person in the Women's Federation. On the day of Tina's wedding, standing on the lawn and looking at her with a happy face, I was a little dazed. When some women are immersed in the emotional dream given by men, the goal of another part of women is to work hard and pursue world equality. They shine in various fields, reject the traps set by men, and widen their paths. But some young wives try to pull all women back. Perhaps this is why young wife literature is loathed. But I really pulled the text with incorrect 3 views back on the right track by myself. While I was silently blessing in my heart, I suddenly heard a voice. The female protagonist has jumped out of the original plot. The original plot has collapsed. Now the host automatically leaves the world. So only by reversing the plot can I find my way home. My body was quickly becoming transparent. I flew higher and higher. Flew over the clouds. And looked down at this land. Even if it is a story in a book. But for people living here, it is a real world. I couldn't help shouting loudly towards the ground, "Tina! Come on!" Tina was throwing the bouquet. She seemed to be looking for someone in the crowd. Suddenly, as if sensing something, she raised her head and looked up at the sky. Then tears streamed down her face. I don't know if she saw me. I waved vigorously at her. Women are soft and resolute. Women should not be defined. She can become anyone she wants to be. Please be an independent tree instead of a clinging vine. There are thousands of miles in the mountains and wilds. The rest of life is long. Please walk firmly.